And we are live. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of GTM Rewired, wherein we discuss all things AI, GTM, and it is specifically for founders, marketing folks, GTM folks, salespeople who are trying to understand how the world is changing and what do I need to do now. Now that something new is coming up every week almost, it's very difficult to kind of keep track of everything that's happening, and hence we have this LinkedIn Live in which we bring in experts in their fields so that you get to learn basis their experience. And today I have Sam here with me, whom I've been wanting to have on my LinkedIn Live. And I would love to give a shout out to Wednesday Women Community. Melissa and Leslie are doing a great job because they're the ones who introduced me to Sam, and she's agreed to be here. So thank you so much, Samantha, that you're joining us here on this LinkedIn Live today. Before we start, I would love to give a quick introduction about Sam here. She has 20 years of experience in enterprise sales and has broken over 13 sales records. And of course, that is why she's the founder of Sam Sales and the creator of her methodology, which we are going to talk about today. It's called Show Me You Know Me. And we're going to break that down because I'm super keen to learn more about that. Yes, I mean, of course. And she champions a manners first and buyers first approach, which challenges how we look at sales traditionally. And buyer first approach in sales, we talk about buyer first approach in marketing a lot, but she talks about that in sales. And I would love to go deep into that as well, whatever time permits. She's a former leader at LinkedIn Sales Navigator team, a LinkedIn top voice, an influencer, and one of the few to be both a LinkedIn brand ambassador and a sales insider. So today, yes, and it's so amazing. She has just truckloads of experience. I
Blushing.
love it. I love your content on LinkedIn, and I would love for everyone who's joining in today
Mm.
to go give follow her and watch out for her content. You'll learn so much more from it than you'd
Mm.
ever from like all the problems that you're probably facing in your LinkedIn in your sales strategies. If you go through her past 5 posts, I'm sure you'll get the answer. Anything you would like to add to the introduction, Sam? Please let me know.
Plenty. Nothing left. You covered it all. I'm blushing, but happy to be here. Thanks for all the kind words, and thanks for introducing me to all of your followers.
Thank you so much. So, Sam, we'll start with the first question, which, like I said, I'm super excited to learn more about, which is the Show Me You Know Me methodology.
Yeah.
And how do you define this method? What does it look like? What exactly is it? Because, yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about this. So I think when I got into sales, I think one of the things that pulled me back the most about just doing anything from a sales perspective, it just felt very impersonal. It felt like it was all about ourselves, our selfish need to close our deals, get meetings, hit our quota, etc. And I really wanted to tap into my Swiss roots. I'm originally from Switzerland, hence the manners first approach, but wanted to find a way to be different. And I found as I listened to all of these calls, or I saw the way that people reached out to clients, it was again all about them without a lot of knowledge for the client. And so, Show Me You Know Me to me is really the art of one, being prepared for your first call, which very few people are. And then two, thinking about how we get to know our clients not only as buyers and people with wallet share, but as human beings as well. Every single call we have with individuals is a chance to understand more about them, their business, who they are as a person, their goals, their challenges, how they're measured, what they're looking to achieve. It's not all about us. We're coming to solve a challenge, but what are they really looking to accomplish? I think also we have an opportunity to show up prepared for calls in a way, like I said, that many others don't. So
Mhm.
if you listen to a pretty standard sales call, you might hear somebody say, "Where are you based? How long have you been there? How's the weather in Washington, D.C.?" And I'll say, "It's sunny." And then somebody will say, "That's great." And we're off to a great start. What we really want to do is do our research in advance. What do we know about them? Where have they worked before? Do we share common connections? Have they worked for companies that do existing business with us? Do they live somewhere where we can build rapport with them or talk about the school they went to? If we can't find anything there, or if it's non-existent on their profile, what do we know about their vertical and their company? So to show prepared with a point of view and something to offer is such a differentiator. But I think the other thing is, don't forget, you have these clients for a year, 2 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years. So what do you know about them? I keep these little notebooks on my side, a lot of them, so that I have facts about my clients, right? And as I've transferred over different companies, remembering their kids' names, their dogs' names, things that they've wanted, places they've wanted to travel to. Just things like that help you build a personal relationship and frankly help you stand out. Plus it rhymes. Show me you know me. What's not to like?
I mean, yeah, there's somebody who says that this sounds so trendy. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty cool name.
Yeah.
But I have a question here, Sam. You mentioned you talked about knowing your clients, and in one of our past LinkedIn lives, somebody mentioned about emotional part of the sale and the transactional part of the sale. So when you're actually selling, you're selling like, and their goals, like the person you're selling to, their goals are emotional in nature and transactional. So
Yeah.
does that tie into your methodology, and how does it tie in? Because I see two different aspects: which company they're in, which is the transactional part, or how will you solve the problem, and yeah, like you said, their dog's name, their life stage, and all of that.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit more about that?
I think an interesting part, frankly, of the sale is that we have to balance both parts. So we have to bring, the personal side, the emotional side, the EQ side to a sale. And then we also have to be on the transactional, practical, like, let's get down to business because we're both here for a reason. You to solve a challenge and me, hopefully, to close revenue. I think something that's interesting, right, is when we think about just the emotional or the EQ and the rapport building side, we have to do all of that, but we also can't get stuck in the place where we've now become a relationship seller. If you've not heard that before, a relationship seller is somebody who just builds a relationship with their clients. They'll take them to dinners. They know everything about them. They send them, links to articles, things like that. But what that means is that they are trepidatious about having the conversation about the actual business because they don't want to ruin the relationship. So they let the buyer really drive the entire thing. And what that means is usually very, very, very long sales cycles, which can put a very big amount of risk in our deals. So you want to balance, right, the how we build the relationship, and then also make sure that we figure out how to segue to the transactional and the business portion of the conversation. I'll give you two quick notes here. So as an example, actually, one quick note before that. In the age of AI, I think one of the most important things that we're focusing on with our sellers is we're teaching them what I call how to people. We're teaching them how to have a conversation, how to ask questions, how to build rapport, how to be an active listener. You'll find that so many individuals today don't know how to do that. They don't know how to say, "Hi, Swati, how was your day? Tell me about your weekend. What did you do?" To listen to something and then to be able to ask an active listening question. For a lot of them, they're paralyzed because they don't know how to do it, or they feel like it's invasive to ask questions like that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, people love to talk about themselves. Ask questions. So I think that's one thing. Make sure that when we're really focusing on our own skill set or that of the teams around us, we know how to do those very baseline level conversational EQ style things. Now, let's talk about how to build that rapport and then how to shift to the business portion of the conversation. You can take something from us. It's our methodology or opening script for a perfect discovery call. So that discovery call, right, is the first call we have with a client. They send us a form inbound or they say, "I heard great things about you. We'd love to talk." So we get on that first call, that sort of first date, if you will, because that's really what discovery calls are. And we get on that call, and what do? What most sellers will do is something along the lines of, "Hi, Swati, tell me what interested you in taking this call." And you say something, "I ask you a very narrow question. You give me a very narrow answer, and I don't really know where to go. I don't build rapport. I don't do any of that. I just get right to it." Instead, do something like this. So you might say, "Hi, Swati, thank you so much again for making time for me. Listen, I could tell you a million things about Sam Sales. One, two, three, as it relates to your buyer persona and your title. Tell you a million things about us, one, two, three. But I'd love to hear about you first. I know this and this and this." And those are succinct things that are relevant to what you solve, right? But it shows the buyer you've also made an effort and done your research. And then you close it out and say, "I'd love to hear from you first. Tell me about your team, your challenges, overall landscape." Right? So as you build your rapport, you have that conversation, you make your jokes, and then you quickly transition to, "So thanks again for making time. Listen," and then you go from there, right? So we have to find a balance between the two. I'll say one more thing. Things happen in our sales cycles all the time. Small and big tragedies happen. People change jobs, right? And the deal that we thought was at the finish line now gets put on hold. It happens 100 times, right? A year. I think the thing that we want to think about is this is where the emotional part from our side also comes into play. your EQ and you being able to read the situation is key. Because if somebody tells you, right, we had a enormous deal at the end of our year last year. Something very tragic happened to one of the family members of our deal maker. And what we should have said, right, is, I'm so sorry for your loss. We'll be here anytime. We'll be thinking of you, et cetera, which is exactly what we said. But what most reps would say, I'm so sorry. Is there somebody else that can drive the deal in the meantime, right? We'd work our way around. And sometimes we just need to read the room and make sure that we continue to build that relationship with that person instead of continuing to steamroll, right? And get our own initiative across. So empathy and EQ are really important. And now I'll stop talking.
I mean, that was so insightful, Sam. There were such insights, such gems hidden in that whole conversation. And what you mentioned in the last part, I think leadership also needs to be aligned. A lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
non EQ management in terms of can you connect me with someone else bit
Yeah.
happens because there's so much of insane leadership pressure. And then overall, you're like the company culture becomes such. And eventually, the reps are representing your company. So
Yeah.
it's just like, the person at the receiving end will not just think less of the rep, but would also think or less of you as a company and what you
As a
represent.
company. Exactly right. You nailed it.
Yeah. So we have a lot of people who are saying a lot of things. I'll read out a few comments because they're like very interesting indeed. I'm happy to connect. In Inge, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly. Joe says, hope everyone realizes how lucky they are to have Sam here. Yes, of
Oh,
course.
thank you.
Alan says this is all sounding very cool, and he has a question. He says, how do we make relationships with our potential clients as we don't know each other? I think
Mm,
you answered that already a little bit in what you said right now,
yeah.
by making sure that you say like here are three things and talk about them a little bit. But
Yeah.
I would add a little bit more to Aman's question here. And you mentioned taking clients out for dinner, building a relationship first, taking them
Yeah.
out for dinners, asking them about their lives in general, and then slowly talking about the transactional part of the piece. But if you're doing if you're selling outside of your geography, so you're
Yeah.
like I told you, a lot of like Aman here probably is based out of India, or maybe surrounding like maybe Southeast Asia, I don't know, and selling into the US or selling into UK or selling into UAE. So how do you do that if you're not based in the same location because you can't take them out for dinners?
It's a
So
great question. I think a couple of things I'll talk about. So one, just the even the building the relationship, taking people out to dinner, things like that. I think something that's really important. Remember that especially when you're in person with somebody, this is an opportunity for you to get to know them. And I think we again make this mistake often that we're here for our initiative, our goals, and we might get right into business. And every culture is different, right? Especially in the States, we're very like get to business quickly. But I want to just reflect in my very early stage of my career. There was a CMO, Felice Wagner, I'll say her name, who I just really wanted to get in front of. I was hoping to close a deal with her, et cetera. She was a chief marketing officer of a major law firm. And I said, I'm going to be in DC. Like, I would love to take you to lunch. I'd love to get to know you. My whole goal, obviously, was to sell her something, and I eventually did. But we spent the entire lunch talking about her. I wanted to understand how about her career. Where did she get? If she had advice for me about how to do better in this field, what would she give me? And I remember when we left, we're still friends. That she said, this is and Felice was probably in her 50s at the time. And she said, there's never a rep that's taken me to lunch and just asked me about my life and never had like the closing, is always like, so could we book the next meeting? And I think that sometimes you have to be speaking to the right buyer persona, right? And the right level. But sometimes that's the difference maker, right? Is that you are genuinely investing time in getting to know them. So that's one thing. I think the other thing is, I think COVID really opened up the world to how the hell do we build relationships when we're just going to be sitting behind our desk? And what's interesting for me is while I've traveled extensively for work, most of my work has been done from behind my desk at home, from being a brand new account executive to a CEO now and beyond. Even now, we rarely visit our customers in person. I think what's interesting, maybe a note that we should do that more. But what's interesting is there's so much information available to you. You just have to think about before you even reach out over email and before those calls that you have, what can you research about them so that if you were meeting them in person, you had the opportunity to make small talk, right? So let's say Swati and I were going to meet at a conference and she was going and she said, I'd be happy to give you 15 minutes to hear about Sam sales. amazing. Okay, great. Like I have my meeting booked. I'm very excited. Now I can't just go up and say, hello, thank you for making time. I would like to tell you about our business. What am I going to do research wise about her to warm the room up and warm the conversation? Because what's going to happen is I will start to have those conversational tidbits. And at some point she's going to say, okay, you've done enough like homework and you've done enough rapport building. Let you give me the pitch. And I'll say, thank God. But look up those things, right? Find the things that you can find to build that rapport on and start there. And you find this is what I do on just about every call. My husband gives me a hard time because he says that he can tell how many new calls I have in a day just because of how often he hears, hi, come out of my office. And so when someone comes on our Zoom, I'll say, hi, how's it going? Like, how's your day? Thanks for coming, just kind of warm them up. And then I'll say, I have to tell you, I saw on your profile this and this and this. Oh my gosh, like same here. I have a funny story, but I have to ask you first, like, tell me about this. We're just starting a conversation. And this is why it's so important to teach or to think about that for ourselves, what those things are and how we can learn that. Because it's just, even though it seems so 101, it just isn't in today's sales environment. And what an amazing opportunity to stand out. And people want to do business with people they like. So what a great opportunity to be likable right out of the gate.
That's so true. I mean, like most of the reps have the habit of once the meeting's booked, let me jump into the demo, let me do my screen share,
Oh
and they
God.
start screen share immediately. And I think this is a major miss. I mean,
Yeah.
and the person at the receiving end is like, oh yes, I booked the call, so they have my 30 minutes, and it's okay for them to show me this demo, and they're very polite. But at the end of the day, the rep is left wondering. Now, why are they not responding to my calls?
Yeah.
I think that went great because they showed a lot of interest in my demo. But I completely agree. Maybe the demo needs to be done in the second meeting. But
Yeah.
we have a question here. Can you share some framework on this research and how to manage this? So, is it all soft skills or is it transferable by some playbook? Can you share some framework or how do you manage this whole piece? So, basically, the example that you just now gave, is there some
Say one
framework
more
that
time.
yeah.
Framework of what?
So, framework of the example that you just gave, Sam,
Oh,
you gave the
mhm.
example around doing your research. You mentioned that talk about, hey, I saw you've written about this thing maybe on LinkedIn. So,
Yeah.
what Mohit is asking for is a framework around this soft skill piece
Yeah.
into a sales call.
So I think and if you go to my LinkedIn posts from, gosh, I think about 2 or 3 weeks ago, actually, if you guys look for the hashtag perfect discovery call, all one word, hashtag perfect discovery call, you'll find this from a few weeks ago. But I posted a cheat sheet of the research to do in advance for that framework piece. So a couple of things. One, when we talk to reps, they'll say, I don't have time to do pre-call research, right? I'm back to back to back all day, and I don't have time to look up 16 things about swatches so that I can be prepared for our call. And we'll say, if the call is important enough, the research has to be important enough as well. So if you have too many calls and you can't do it, something has to give, or you just have to work harder, frankly. But you've got to make the time for it. And what I would say first is find some things on the rapport building front, right? That those first few minutes. Again, look for places that they have worked before. Are they your existing client? Do they do work with your business? Look for where they live, where they went to school, common connections. Find any common ground, something that you can talk about, so that you can lead with that conversation. Now, in terms of the research, there's broken down on that cheat sheet 3 things. One, the human being. How long have they been there? Have they been promoted several times? What do we know about them? Then there's the space that they're in or how they show up in your CRM. So we want to think about, is this the 7th time somebody is coming to a discovery call with us, and the 7th time that they've worked with our company? Maybe they've purchased our product at every company they've been at. Do we know that? Is this the 17th call they're taking with us and they've never purchased with us? Why? What a waste of time, by the way. But also, it's a good indicator for us to understand, why do they keep talking to us and never pull the trigger? And then to find out, did they work with us before? Have they churned, et cetera? And then the final thing is understanding the company. What's their space? Top 2 or 3 competitors. Do they work with us? Do we work with their competitors? Will that ruffle some competitive feathers in a good way? We want to know these things. But here's what I'll tell you, right? If you, again, think about the most common way that a call is started. Even if the rapport building happens, it's usually it's usually a really bad first date rapport building. So it's like, again, how's the weather? How long have you been there? Where are you based? All things that we can know in advance. And so when you come to the table with that different rapport building, and then when you create that opening script that I talked about, you're saying a couple of things. One, if the person came to you for let's say topic B, and you say, I could tell you three things, a million things about us, topic A, topic B, topic C. Most people focus on topic B because that's what the client came in for. But we want to talk about A and B, or A and C. We want them to know that those are two things that we do, because more often than not, the buyer will say, huh, I came for B, but I didn't even know that you did A. I want to touch on that too. And you're like, great, right? So in an instant, we've immediately cross-sold and upsold them, hopefully, or we found a way to multi-thread in their organization really quickly. Now, the second thing is when we say, I know this about you, we're basically saying, I've done my research, I have a point of view, I can talk to you about whatever you want because I already know what to talk to you about. But I'd love to hear from you first. So we're doing two things. We're saying, I'm prepared, and if you want me to talk at you, I can, but I'd love to know from you this and this and this. And we keep it super, super broad. What you're going to find is if you can master that opening script, this is what buyers will do 99% of the time. They'll start to nod before you even finish your sentence, right? Once they get a sense of what you want. And then they'll say, yeah, so maybe I can just tell you a little bit about kind of what's going on with us. And then you tell me about you. They say exactly what we wanted them to say. And then they talk for 2 or 3 or 7 minutes. They talk and talk and talk. We have to be mindful not to interrupt. It's just rich coming from me because I never stop talking, but mindful to not interrupt, right? And then just listen, 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 because they're going to stream of consciousness because we've earned that right. We've shown up prepared. We've shown up that we have a point of view. It's great. Now, one thing I will say, and then I'll zip it. Be mindful, especially if you're a leader of teams and you have, let's say, a rep or two who says, I'm not going to do that research. I can wing it. I'm a master. I don't need to do that research because I can handle anything. Here's what I will tell you. If you happen to get on the phone, the more senior the person is, the more likely this is to happen. If you get on your phone or your Zoom and the person says, happy to tell you about us. What do you know? Happy to tell you, what do you know about us first? And if the rep hasn't done their research, that deal is dead on arrival because they want to work with people who come prepared, who have put in the time. And if you haven't done your research, if you don't know anything about them, or if you're squinting at your screen while you feverishly Google or ChatGPT it, they're going to be in trouble. So what's that opportunity worth to you? Do your research. And oh my gosh, with Claude and chat and everything, I mean, you can do it in like 19 seconds. Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, I think you answered quite a few questions here, and I hope your question was answered because Sam, you literally gave me a framework, and I love what you said. You said that have your opening script ready, and I think this is
Yeah.
what is missing. We are templatizing emails, we are templatizing LinkedIn posts, we are templatizing so
Mhm.
many things, but we are not prepared with an opening script going into a call. When we go
Yeah.
into a call, pretty unprepared. We're just thinking of the demo. We're already imagining the revenue that is going to enter the pipeline and the big claims that we're going to make in our internal meetings because we booked this call, but we're
Yeah.
not as much focused on that conversation. So I completely hear you there. And Sam, we have a lot of questions, but in the
Oh,
interest of time, I'm able to take a few. But I really, really request you, if you and the team can take the time to answer these questions, which are in
sure.
the comments on this LinkedIn Live later on. So, guys, even if I don't take up the question, you will get an answer, and you can obviously connect with Sam. But so Caitlin added on to what you were talking about and said, showing up genuinely curious to learn about someone versus going through a checklist makes a very big difference, and
For sure.
100% that's correct. So Aman has a question here, and I'm going to take this in order. So he says, Sam, you're awesome. Got to know about you from Apollo course I did, and the show
Oh,
is a valuable something that I'm applying in cold emails. But I see nowadays that a lot of people are following same templatized structure and monotonous way of writing emails. So would love to know your take. How do we analyze the prospect pattern and how do we craft emails? And I think, Sam, as an additional thing, what I see, another question which has been pinged to me on LinkedIn is, can you give me like I understand, give me some methodology of how to apply show me you know me methodology. So I think when I was about to frame this question, is it emails, is it just for calls, is it across different channels? So the question is around which channel to use to apply this. How do you get to a meeting using show me you know me?
Every channel. So I think a couple of things. Let me give you one tangible thing to think about. So the first four touches that you have with a prospective client, right, are really, really important. Number one, you want to think about sending your first email on a Thursday or a Friday. And again, this is region specific, as different regions have different weekends as well. But if Thursday or Friday means that you're catching an executive at the end of their week. The second email is going to go out less than 48 hours after the first one. 44 or so hours is great, which means they're going to get that second email on Saturday or Sunday. The third touch point is going to go on a Wednesday, and the fourth, I can do math. The fourth one is going to be your LinkedIn touch, all on a Friday. All needs to have show me you know me. Now, how do you do that, and what's a framework? And as quickly as I can tell you, your show me you know me needs to be in the subject line first and foremost. And when you read it, you need to ask yourself, does this make sense to anyone except the one person receiving it? And if it does make sense to somebody else, it's probably not right. Now, you can scale show me you know me by pulling a quote from a CEO or something from a mantra that they have that they just released in an earnings report. You can do that, but I would say put in a little bit more effort. Find something about them that you can write in your subject line. If you go to my post today, we're having a Sales Navigator webinar next Friday. And I give you a quick example of please come register, more the merrier, totally free. But I give you a quick example of a subject line. For me, if you wrote something like Lausanne, Switzerland, right? Or just Lausanne plus speeding tickets, I have a lot, plus your company name. I don't know your company name, but I know Lausanne, I know my speeding tickets, and my curiosity is piqued. I'm going to open up that email. If you do that one thing, your open rates will pop. I promise you, it's practically guaranteed. People are curious. They want to know what you have to say. Now, the kicker is, can you get them to reply? And this is really where that show me you know me comes in. Number one, authentically tie your own thoughts to the show me you know me. So you might say, I saw you grew up in Switzerland. I've been to France and Germany and Italy. I've never been in the middle. I'm dying to go. I will take your recommendations anytime. The real reason for my outreach is I want to sell you something. Don't say that. But you need a transition. And this is where people get it wrong. They say something they've observed about the company. They say they're solving it for companies just like them. And they say, do you want to learn more? No. Because if I get 10 emails that look just like that, and I say yes to all of them, I've just now taken up 300 minutes of my day without getting any value. I can't take 10 meetings. You have got to prove the value in the email. And it is not what you do, it is what you solve. So thinking about what the show me you know me is that you know what that buyer's going through, you know what their problems are, and there's one very broad, very headline thing that you can do to solve a problem for them. Here's my example. As you had said, all my LinkedIn distinctions, and LinkedIn Sales Navigator is the line of business for an enterprise team that I help run. I know that platform like nobody else. And so if I say we can train your teams on Sales Navigator, someone's going to say, we have a customer success manager for that at LinkedIn for free. Why would we pay you? And I'll say, fair point. I have to get that specific challenge. I know you're having a challenge with pipeline, which is exactly what my email said, my post said today. I know you have a challenge with pipeline. Every organization is. You're sitting on the best technology you have for that and for prospecting, LinkedIn Sales Navigator. But the challenge is everyone knows how to use it. Nobody knows how to use it to sell. Oh, is that our challenge? I'm trying to pique their curiosity. I'm trying to get that leader to say, is this why you don't use it? And people will say, yeah, lists and things are great, but I don't actually know what to do with it. Oh, now I have to get around the objection. Why would we get the SAM? We have a CSM for that. Here, you likely have a CSM at LinkedIn. Here's how I'm different. And then ask if it's worth a chat. You have to think about so what of your tool and what it is you're solving for the buyer. Now, your show me you know me, right, continues to go into that with your LinkedIn connection request. So I'll just fast forward because I know we're out of time to the fourth touch point, which is your LinkedIn touch. do not, if you take one thing away from today, do not send a blank request. I'm seeing all of you guys send me connection requests, by the way, and kudos to you for all writing something about this event. I'm seeing them pop up on my phone. But don't send an empty request. This is all you have to say. Hi, Swati. My name might look familiar as I've sent you a few emails. I'd be so grateful for the chance to chat with you about how SAM sales can impact you if in your business. If you're ever up for a chat, please let me know. That's it. You will stand out in a sea of blank connection requests for everybody else that thinks it's a volume game, and you will hopefully get them to accept. Now, if they accept and they don't say anything, then we really got to roll up our sleeves and we got some work to do, but we can get there. Okay, I'll zip it now. I know we're out of time.
No, this was so insightful. I mean, you actually connected two very important channels, which is email and LinkedIn. And guys, all of you are sending out connection requests because I know there's so many questions, Sam, and I cannot take them. But if you allow me, I want to take up two questions which came
Yeah,
in early on
of
into the
course, of
conversation.
course.
One question is that your sales experience is definitely from the pre-AI era. So, what's the buyer behavior change that has happened post LLMs that you probably have included in now the Show Me You Know Me framework? And what do as sellers we need to be mindful of? And adding to that, what are the things to avoid while trying to build rapport or while doing these discovery calls?
Say the last part again. What to avoid with what?
What are the things to avoid while trying to build rapport and relationship on calls?
Great questions. Okay, so I think buyer behavior has changed in a sense that they are more informed than ever, right? And that's exactly what LLMs do in a second. It's not a Google search that then gives us the information dissect. It it dissects everything for us. Now, I don't think that has really changed our approach from a show me, you know me. But what I would tell you is again where a mistake most reps make. Um, 3% of your buyers are in an active buying cycle. 7% are starting, right? Are like, okay, we're going to entertain demos, et cetera. 3% are actively in it. You've got another 30% that are probably up for renewal that are starting to be informed. And then the next 30% that like within 6 months, they're going to be starting to look at another solution. What we do is we just focus on the 3%, right? We're looking for that 3% when we really need to be connecting with and engaging with everybody. In fact, data shows that if 90% of deals go to people who were already part of that person's consideration. So you do that in two ways. Either you reach out, you connect, you nurture, you do your show me, you know me, you stand out to get the reply and start the conversation long before they're ready to buy. Or you think about how you stand out in those LLMs in a different way, because when they do their research and they find you, then you're there. But I would say where you're going to see your success is always be prospecting and look for a way to write an email so strong that even when somebody is not in a buying cycle, they're going to reply just because you made the effort. I think buyer behavior has changed that with LLMs. It is so easy to do what I call scale and veil. You do your research, you make it look like you made an effort. We use brackets, everything connects right back to a data system, and it looks like we made an effort when we didn't. And our buyers are so numb to that. So the effort, the humanity, the authenticity of what you bring is what's going to stand out. What to avoid when building rapport. You don't want to know too much about the buyer. So if I showed up to the call and I said, Swati, here are the 17 things that I know about you. Let's talk about them all. You would say, oh my God, and you would run. So I think know those 17 things if it's easy enough to find, but like talk about one or two. And then let's say at the end of the call, Swati says like, oh, she mentions thing number 15 that I know. I would say, I think I saw that on your profile. Not like, yes, I know, and this is exactly where you worked and where you were. I would say also be mindful of language. I had a rep once who got on a call with he was a male and she was a female, and he said, I hope, he was trying to be funny, but he said, I hope you don't mind, I've been stalking you. And I'm like, let's not use that language, even though you have. Let's just choose a different word. And then I think just the other thing is be mindful to keep the information you find recent. So if we say I found a Yelp review from 2009, or I looked at your MySpace pictures from 1999, it's going to be a little creepy. I don't even know if you can find that anymore, but keep it professional, right? And even if it's personal, if it's shared on a LinkedIn page, it is free game, in my opinion.
think this is really interesting. So, yeah, perfect discovery call hashtag. I think folks are asking a question. They're helping they're answering other folks as well. So Steve asked a question, which was that download cheat sheet hashtag, and we have three people answering that for him, which is perfect discovery call. So please
Yeah.
look for that.
Yeah.
And a lot of questions. I think I would request Sam and her team to kind of go through them and answer them for all of you guys, because we'll not be able to take any more questions. One last thing that Sam, I ask everyone is, what are your thoughts on AI and how AI is changing the overall marketing sales ecosystem, in your opinion, like in one line, maybe?
I think it's incredible. I mean, I really do. And I think if it's used the right way, like, oh my gosh, the things that we can achieve, from building websites to building apps to building products to supplementing our legal counsel. I mean, gosh, there is so much that it can do for us, right? I think the people that will succeed in these coming years are the ones who aren't going to use it as a way to silver bullet or completely replace themselves. The ones that will win, especially from a sales perspective, in my humble opinion, are the ones that are going to use AI to scale their intelligence and then marry that with their humor, their ability, their process, their outreach, right? And then make a difference there. So it's really going to help me work smarter, faster, but it should never replace me. And frankly, this is where Show Me You Know Me, it really has its moment to shine, because everybody is looking for that silver bullet replace where they can just put their feet up and let AI do everything, and use AI to then build your own message, right? And stand out. Your clients will love you for it.
That was beautiful. And thank you so much, everyone, for showing so much of love for this conversation. I would really, really request Sam if we can do another round two
Oh,
after some
anytime.
after a couple of months, maybe connect again, because there's been a lot of love and a lot of questions, and we would answer all of your questions 100%.
Thanks.
Sam has already promised me that, and we'll also work with Sam's team. In case you need us to work with you, Sam, on this one, happy to help, because I would love for all of them to get their answers.
Thanks for
And
having me. Part 2 on the way.
so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.